Don't wish for life to be easier. Wish for yourself to be stronger. I learned that very early, not from a book, not on a stage, but on days when life placed its full weight on my shoulders without warning, without negotiation. You wake up every morning and the world is already there, with bills, with pressure, with expectations, with rejections, and with disappointments you never scheduled. Life does not wait for you to be ready. It does not ask whether you are strong enough. It just comes. And if your mind is not steady enough, if your spirit is not yet tough enough, then sooner or later you will be bent and then broken. I have seen this happen too many times. Smart people, capable people, people with opportunities, yet they collapse the moment they face their first real pressure. One rejection is enough for them to quit. One failure is enough for them to doubt themselves. Not because life treated them more harshly than others, but because they never trained their minds to withstand weight. The truth is, this world is not gentle with anyone. Old or young, rich or poor, educated or not, pressure will come. The question is not whether life is hard, but whether you are strong enough to face it. When I say make your mind tougher, I am not talking about becoming cold or emotionless. I am talking about the ability to endure without breaking, to face things without collapsing, and to move forward even when no one is cheering for you. In this video, I will share with you the principles that help me and many others build a spirit strong enough that the world cannot crush it. These are not pretty words. These are principles paid for with time, discipline, and pain. And stay until the end, because principle number 7 may be the turning point that makes you rethink the entire way you are facing life and yourself. Principle 1. Life always creates pressure. This is not an exception. It is the rule. There is a truth that most people take many years, even a lifetime, to accept. Life does not have an easy mode. You do not need to do anything wrong to face pressure. You do not need to lack ability to be tested. As long as you are alive, as long as you step outside each day, pressure is already there like air, like gravity. I have observed this very closely, not in books, but in real life. When you are young, pressure takes the form of studying, comparison, fear of falling behind. When you start working, pressure changes shape. KPIs, money, recognition, responsibility. When you have a family, pressure does not disappear. It only becomes heavier and quieter. The problem is, many people live as if pressure is an injustice that happens only to them. They ask, why is everything so hard? They wish, if only life were a little easier. But life does not operate according to your wishes. It operates according to its own laws. Pressure does not come to hurt you. Pressure comes to test who you are. Think about this. Two people face the same difficult situation. One collapses. The other gets back up, slower but stronger. The circumstances are the same, but the outcomes are completely different. The difference is not in the level of pressure, but in the condition of the mind. I have seen people fall apart over very small things, a rejected email, a project that takes longer than expected, a negative comment. Their entire day is ruined by a light collision. Why? Because they live with the expectation that life should be easier than it actually is. At the same time, I have also met people who have gone through real storms, job loss, financial failure, personal crises, yet they do not collapse. Not because they do not suffer or feel discouraged, but because they are not surprised by pressure. They have mentally prepared themselves with the belief, this is part of the journey. Pressure is like gravity. You can hate it, but it still exists. If you do not train your muscles, gravity will pull you down. If you do not train your mind, pressure will bring you to your knees. And this is the biggest mistake most people make. They wait until pressure shows up before thinking about becoming strong. But when the storm has already arrived, you no longer have time to build a house. You only have time to see whether the house you built is strong enough. Life does not ask you, are you ready? It just knocks and walks in. So the important question is not, how do I avoid pressure? You can't. It is, how am I preparing my mind for what is unavoidable? If every day you live in avoidance, avoiding difficult tasks, heavy decisions, responsibility, you are training your mind to become weaker. And when real pressure arrives, you will respond exactly the way you have trained: panic, blame, or quit. On the other hand, If you accept from the beginning that life has weight, you will stop complaining and start preparing. You will no longer be surprised by hardship. You will stop asking, why me? You will understand that pressure does not choose the weak or the strong, it chooses everyone. The only difference is, some people let pressure crush them. Others use pressure to forge themselves. And from this very first principle, I want you to remember one thing. Life does not need to be easier for you to succeed. You only need to be stronger to face it. Stop for a moment and ask yourself, are you hoping life will change, or are you quietly preparing yourself to stand firm against what is certain to come? Because when you understand that pressure is the rule of the game, not an accident, you stop fearing it. And when you stop fearing it, you begin to control your response. And it is from that response that real change truly begins. In the next principle, I will talk about something very few people are willing to admit. Pressure does not create who you are, it only reveals who you already are. Principle 2. Pressure does not create who you are, it only reveals who you are. There's a very common misunderstanding that I've heard for many years. I'm not really like that. It's just that the circumstances pushed me into it. But the truth is harder to hear. Circumstances do not create who you are. They only pull the curtain down. Pressure does not make you short-tempered. It only shows that you never learned how to control your emotions. Pressure does not make you quit. It only shows that you were never truly committed. Pressure does not make you weaker. It only exposes the weakness that already existed. I know this is not easy to accept, because if you blame pressure, circumstances, or other people, then you don't have to change anything. But if you dare to face the truth that how you react under pressure is your true nature, then you have the greatest opportunity to grow. Observe how people react when things do not go as expected. Some immediately get angry. Some withdraw and go silent. Some blame the entire world. Some quietly adjust and keep moving forward. The same pressure, 4 different reactions. Pressure is like a mirror. It does not lie. It does not edit the image to make it easier to look at. It reflects exactly what is inside. And what hurts many people the most is not the pressure, but what they see about themselves when pressure appears. Many people say they will be calmer when things settle down. They will be more disciplined when they are less busy. They will be stronger when life becomes lighter. But life does not wait for favorable conditions to test you. It tests you right in the middle of chaos. If you are disciplined only when nothing is demanded of you, that is not discipline. If you stay calm only when everything is going well, that is not strength. If you persist only when results come quickly, that is not resilience. Pressure comes to ask you one very direct question. When ideal conditions disappear, who are you then? I have seen people speak beautifully about values, principles, and goals, but the moment a small obstacle appears, all of those words vanish. Not because they are bad people, but because they never trained themselves under resistance. On the other hand, I have also met people who speak very little. No showmanship, no promises. But when things begin to fall apart, they keep their breathing steady, their attitude intact, and they continue doing what needs to be done. Pressure does not make them shine loudly. It simply confirms that they prepared long ago. What you need to understand is this. You do not become someone else under pressure. You simply no longer have the energy to pretend. When you are exhausted, disappointed, cornered, the social layers fall away. There is no time to perform. And that is when your real habits, real thinking, and real discipline step into the light. That is why I always say, do not wait for pressure to arrive before training your mind. When pressure is already there, the game is almost begun. You can only play with what you trained beforehand. If you regularly avoid difficult tasks, when major pressure comes, you will avoid it. If you are used to blaming others over small things, when big things happen, you will blame even more. If you consistently keep promises to yourself, then when everything shakes, you will still stand firm. Pressure is not biased, but it is very fair in what it reveals. And here is the good news, even if it does not sound pleasant at first. If you do not like who you become under pressure, you can completely change that. Not by avoiding pressure, but by training before pressure arrives. Every time you choose to do the right thing when no one is watching, Every time you stay calm instead of reacting impulsively, every time you continue even when you really want to quit, you are training the version of yourself that will show up when real pressure knocks on the door. Ask yourself honestly, when life is not going well, how do I usually react? Do I collapse? Do I explode? Or do I adjust and move forward? Because the answer to that question does not speak about the future. It speaks about who you are right now. And next, I will talk about something very important that many people misunderstand. Principle 3, toughness is not coldness, it is flexibility, so you do not break. When I talk about mental toughness, many people misunderstand it. They think that to be strong, you must become cold, no emotions, no pain, no reaction to anything. But that is not strength, that is numbness. A dead tree does not feel strong winds, but it also cannot bend. And when the storm comes, it breaks. True mental strength is not about feeling no pain. It is about feeling pain and still standing. I have met people who are proud that they don't care about anything. But when I look closer, I see that they are not strong, they are avoiding. They shut down their emotions because they are afraid of being hurt again. And the danger is this: when you shut the door to pain, you also shut the door to growth. Life does not need you to become a rock. Life needs you to become bamboo. Bamboo is not as hard as steel, but bamboo knows how to bend. And that ability to bend is what allows it to survive the storm. Mental toughness is the ability to bear weight without losing yourself. It is being criticized and listening without letting others' words define you. It is failing and hurting without letting the pain turn into bitterness. It is being tired and admitting it without using it as an excuse to quit. Many people think being strong means swallowing everything inside. But the truth is, what you swallow without digesting will eventually make you sick. The mind is the same way. If you do not learn how to process emotions, pressure will accumulate. And one day you will break not because of one big hit, but because of too many small ones. Mentally flexible people do not deny emotions. They name them. They say, I'm disappointed. I'm angry. I'm anxious. But they do not let emotions take the wheel. They let principles take the wheel. That is the biggest difference. A person without flexibility reacts the moment emotion appears. A flexible person pauses, observes, and then acts. That pause, even if only a few seconds, is where real strength is born. I have seen relationships fall apart, not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of flexibility. One wrong word, one unmet expectation, and emotions explode, words go out of control, and the consequences last a long time. A mentally flexible person is not someone who is never triggered, but someone who does not let being triggered decide their behavior. The same applies at work. When plans do not go as expected, an inflexible person panics or blames others. A flexible person asks, what is this asking me to adjust? They are adaptable but not lost. They change methods, but not core values. That is why flexibility matters more than rigidity. Too much rigidity makes you brittle. Flexibility makes you durable. Life is a long journey. If you only tense up every time things get hard, you will burn out quickly. But if you learn when to relax, when to stand firm, and when to move forward, you will go much farther. And flexibility is not innate. It is trained. You train flexibility every time. You do not react immediately when you are insulted. You give yourself time to think before making a hard decision. You accept emotions, but do not let them drive your life. Each time you do that, you are teaching your mind an important lesson. I can feel a lot and still stay in control of my direction. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were under emotional pressure? Did you react on instinct, or did you pause, breathe, and choose a better response? Because how you handle emotions in those moments will determine whether you are bent or forged. Next, I will talk about where real flexibility truly begins, not in major crises, but in the small daily disciplines that most people overlook. Principle 4, mental toughness is not born in crisis. It is built from daily discipline. Many people only think about becoming strong when everything starts falling apart, when pressure piles up, when a crisis appears, when they have no choice left but to push through. But by then, it is too late. The truth is, you do not become tough on hard days. You only reveal the level of toughness you built on ordinary days. The mind is like a muscle. You cannot wait until you have to lift something heavy to start training. You have to train beforehand, quietly, on days when no one demands strength from you. That is where discipline comes in. Discipline is not glamorous. It does not create dramatic moments. No one applauds when you wake up early. No one gives you a medal for keeping a promise to yourself. But those small actions are silently building the foundation of your mental strength. Most people underestimate the power of very small choices. Getting up when the alarm goes off instead of hitting snooze. Finishing what you committed to, even when the motivation is gone. Not cutting corners, even when no one is watching. Those choices do not change you overnight, and that is why many people ignore them. But over time, they create a completely different person. Discipline is how you tell your mind, I control my actions, not my emotions. Every time you do what needs to be done instead of what is easy, you are training your mind to tolerate discomfort. And that ability to tolerate discomfort is the core of mental toughness. A person who cannot tolerate discomfort will always look for ways to escape pressure. A person who is familiar with discomfort does not panic when pressure appears. Many people think they lack motivation, but rarely is motivation the real issue. The issue is a lack of discipline. Motivation comes and goes. Emotions rise and fall, but discipline, if built correctly, stays. I have met people with very big goals who speak beautifully and think deeply, yet their lives do not change, not because their goals are wrong, but because every day they fail to do the small things required to become the person capable of carrying those goals. Discipline is the bridge between what you want and who you need to become. And that bridge is not built overnight. It is built one small brick at a time, every single day. Skipping one workout does not make you weak immediately. Postponing one important task does not destroy your future instantly. But the habit of quitting does. Over time, your mind learns a dangerous lesson. When things get hard, I can escape. And when real pressure arrives, that mind will respond exactly according to what it has been taught. On the other hand, when you maintain discipline in small things, you teach yourself a different lesson. I can endure discomfort without falling apart. That is the foundation of mental toughness. A disciplined person is not someone who is always strong. They get tired, they get bored, they doubt themselves, but they do not let those emotions decide their behavior. And that is what creates the difference when life tests them. When others panic, they keep their rhythm. When others quit, they continue. Not faster, not louder, just steadier. Ask yourself honestly, what small disciplines are you neglecting every day? And if you continue neglecting them for the next 5 years, what do you think your mind will be strong enough to handle? Because when a crisis comes, and it will come, you do not stand up with temporary willpower. You stand up with what you have trained for a long time before. Next, I will talk about something many people run from, but which is the greatest teacher of mental toughness. Pain. Principle 5. Pain does not come to destroy you, it comes to teach you. No one actively seeks pain. The natural instinct is to avoid it, run from it, or go numb in front of it, and I understand that. Pain is uncomfortable. It exhausts you. It makes you doubt yourself. It forces you to face things you do not want to see. But here's a truth very few people are willing to admit. Pain is the most honest teacher life has ever created. Life may overlook your laziness for a while. It may overlook your bad habits for years. But when pain appears, it overlooks nothing. It forces you to look directly. Many people see pain as an enemy. They ask, why is this happening to me? But mentally tough people ask a different question. What is this trying to teach me? That difference changes the entire trajectory of a life. Think back to a time when you truly failed. Not a small failure, but the kind that kept you awake at night. A collapsed project, a broken relationship, a wrong decision whose consequences lasted for years. Pain in those moments can do one of two things. Either it traps you in the past, or it pushes you forward with an entirely new awareness. Most people allow pain to become a prison. They replay the old story. They blame circumstances. They blame others. And slowly they begin to believe they are victims of life. But the moment you see yourself as a victim, you hand all your power over to circumstances. Mentally tough people do not deny pain. They extract it. They understand that there are lessons you cannot learn from books, advice, or seminars. Some lessons only come when you pay a price, when you clearly feel the consequences of a bad choice, when you experience the emptiness after an easy compromise, when you face the question, where could I have done better? Pain forces responsibility, and that is where strength begins to form. I have seen people lose almost everything in a short period of time: jobs, money, confidence. From the outside, it looks like a tragedy. But years later, those same people told me it was the most important turning point of their lives. Not because pain is good, but because it forced them to change. Without pain, they would have continued living with the same habits, continued procrastinating, continued compromising. Pain broke that loop. This is the key thing you need to remember. Pain always carries a gift. But that gift only reveals itself when you are willing to learn. If you only try to run from pain, you will repeat it. If you stop, observe, and learn from it, you will not need to learn that lesson again. Mentally tough people do not ask, how can I never feel pain? They ask, how can I not waste this pain? Because once you turn pain into understanding, discipline, and behavioral adjustment, no one can take that away from you. It becomes part of your inner strength. Ask yourself, what is the greatest pain you have experienced, trying to teach you that you are still unwilling to listen to? If you truly learned that lesson, how would you be different? Because when you are no longer afraid of pain, you are no longer easily broken. And in the next principle, I will talk about a very subtle pressure, one that does not hit hard, but slowly wears you down every day. Pressure from the outside world and the crowd. Principle 6. If you do not choose your direction, the world will choose for you. Many people believe they are free. They think they are making their own life decisions. But if you observe more closely, you will see a rather troubling truth. Most people are living according to the inertia of the world around them, not according to conscious choices of their own. The world is not neutral. It does not stand still, waiting for you to figure out your path. It constantly pulls you through very subtle invitations. Advertising tells you what you are missing. Social media shows you how others are living. The crowd whispers, don't be so serious. Everyone lives like this. And if you do not have a clear direction, those whispers slowly become the voice in your head. I once met a young man who told me that his biggest problem was not money, not health, but pressure from friends. Every choice he made was weighed against an unspoken question: what will others think? If his friends mocked discipline, he laughed along. If they dismissed effort, he dismissed it too. It made him feel safe in the short term, but empty in the long term. Because none of them will live his life for him. They will not bear the consequences of his choices. They will not pay the bills for his easy decisions, and they certainly will not carry his regrets for him. Pressure from the world rarely comes as a strong shove. It comes as small touches. One time you ignore your principles to fit in. One time you choose convenience over what is right. One time you stay silent when you should have stood up. And then, little by little, your life turns in a direction you never truly chose. If you do not set standards for yourself, the world will impose its standards on you. If you do not decide what matters, you will be swept into things that are urgent but meaningless. If you do not write the script of your life, you will play a supporting role in someone else's script. Mental toughness here is the ability to resist pulls in the wrong direction. Not resisting everything, but knowing what to say no to. Saying no to laziness when discipline is required. Saying no to the crowd when the crowd is heading the wrong way. Saying no to easy promises that damage your future. This requires courage, because standing alone is never easy. But remember, it is better to walk alone for a while than to walk with the crowd to the wrong destination. When you are mentally tough, you do not need to react to every noise. You choose selectively. You listen, but you are not carried away. You can stand in the middle of a crowd and still keep your own direction. Ask yourself honestly, how many decisions in your current life come from conscious choice? And how many come from pressure to fit in? Because if you do not take the wheel, life will carry you along with whatever wind happens to blow. And in the next principle, I will talk about something many people misjudge: Talent can help you start, but only mental toughness will help you finish. Principle 7. Talent helps you start, but only mental toughness helps you go the distance. There is something I have observed for many years, and the longer I observe, the more certain I become. This world does not lack talented people. It lacks people who are tough enough not to quit. Talent creates a strong first impression. It helps you get noticed. It helps you start faster than others. But talent is not designed to withstand long-term pressure. I have met many people with brilliant beginnings. They were smart, well-spoken, fast learners, far more capable than average. But a few years later, they disappeared. Not because they became less capable, but because they could not carry the weight of the journey. On the other hand, I have also met very ordinary people, not outstanding, not impressive at first, but they had one thing that very few people have. They did not quit when things became difficult and boring. And in the end, they were the ones who went the farthest. Understand this clearly. Life is not a sprint, it is a marathon. In a sprint, talent can win, but in a marathon, only mental endurance determines who reaches the finish line. At the beginning, everything is usually exciting. You have motivation, energy, hope. But one day, the novelty fades. Results come slowly, effort goes unnoticed. You begin to ask yourself, am I on the right path? That is when talent no longer helps much. Because talent does not teach you how to continue when inspiration is gone. Mental toughness does. Mentally tough people do not ask every day, do I feel motivated today? They ask, what needs to be done today? And they do it even when no one is watching, no one is praising them, and there is no immediate reward. Many people stop when they are almost there. Not because they lack ability, but because they did not prepare mentally for the hardest phase of the journey. The long, repetitive, silent phase, no applause, no attention. Just you and the work that needs to be done. Talent will not save you there. Only habits, discipline, and mental endurance will keep you in the game. I have seen very capable people lose heart after just a few rejections, lose momentum when recognition disappears. They are used to being praised, so when praise is gone, they lose direction. Mentally tough people, on the other hand, do not depend on recognition to continue. They have internal standards. They know why they started, and they do not need the entire world to agree with them to keep moving forward. Mental toughness also shows in the ability to endure repetition, doing the same right thing day after day. No glamour, no major breakthrough, just moving forward very slowly, but without stopping. Most people do not fail because they lack talent. They fail because they cannot endure consistency. They want fast results. They want intense feelings. They want to see change immediately. But life does not operate at that pace. Life rewards those who can keep doing the right thing, even when there are no signs that it is working. And that is why mental toughness matters more than talent. Talent gets you invited into the game. Mental toughness decides whether you stay until the end. Ask yourself, how many times have you quit something simply because results came slower than you expected? And if you had persisted for another 6 months, 1 year, what might have been different? Because many successes do not lie in the final leap. They lie in the ability not to quit right before the turning point happens. In the next principle, I will talk about the quiet but most powerful reward of mental toughness, something very few people realize until they lose it: inner freedom. Principle 8, mental toughness brings a quiet reward, inner freedom. There is a kind of freedom that many people chase their entire lives, yet very few truly reap. It does not come from more money. It does not come from higher status. It does not come from being recognized by others. It is inner freedom. Freedom from being pulled around by every passing emotion. Freedom from living in fear of judgment. Freedom where the outside world changes, but you remain steady inside. And this only comes to those who have made their minds strong. Most people live in a state of being controlled. One compliment can lift them up for an entire day. One criticism can ruin an entire week. One piece of bad news can make them lose direction. One opposing opinion can make them doubt themselves. Not because they are weak, but because their minds are not strong enough to stand independently. A mentally tough person is not someone who does not care about the world. They still listen. They still feel. But they do not allow the world to determine their inner state. That is a huge difference. When you are not mentally tough, you are always reacting. Reacting to words, reacting to circumstances, reacting to emotions, and every time you do that, you hand control of your life to something external. On the other hand, when you have trained your mind to be steady, you begin to choose your responses. You are not dragged along. You are not easily provoked. You pause, observe, then act. That pause is freedom. I have told many people this: if you cannot control your reactions, you do not truly control your life. Because life will always contain things outside your control, other people, markets, timing, unexpected events. But your response to all of that is always within your reach. And only mentally tough people are able to use that power. Inner freedom also shows up in not being obsessed with pleasing everyone. You understand that agreeing with the crowd may bring short-term comfort, but the cost is betraying yourself. Mentally tough people accept that. Not everyone will like them. Not everyone will understand them. Not everyone will support their choices. And they are okay with that. No bitterness. No defensiveness. No need to prove anything, because they have built a strong enough inner foundation that they no longer need constant validation from the outside. This is especially important in a world full of noise. Every day you are surrounded by opinions, advice, standards, expectations. If you are not mentally tough, you will live in a constant state of tension, trying to keep up, trying to meet expectations, trying not to be left behind. Mentally tough people are selective. They know what is worth listening to. They know what should be ignored, and they do not feel guilty for protecting their focus. Inner freedom also brings a powerful benefit: calmness under pressure. When others panic, you keep your breathing steady. When others react impulsively, you think clearly. When others are swept away by emotion, you remain grounded. Not because you are better than them, but because you have trained yourself not to be carried away. And that calmness creates a strong ripple effect. Others begin to trust you. They give you greater responsibility. They come to you when they need stability. Not because you always have the answers, but because you do not make things more chaotic. Mental toughness does not make you rigid. It makes you grounded but flexible. You can change plans without losing direction. You can accept failure without losing self-respect. You can step into uncertainty without shaking. And here is the quietest reward of all. When you are strong enough inside, you no longer need to fight the outside world. You do not need to win every argument. You do not need to prove you are right all the time. You do not need to react to every provocation. You choose your battles. And very often you choose not to fight. Ask yourself slowly and honestly, right now, what is controlling your inner state the most? Circumstances, other people's opinions, or yourself? And if you truly mastered your reactions, how much lighter would your life become? Because when you gain inner freedom, you do not just survive in this world, you live on your own terms. In the next principle, I will talk about the true measure of mental toughness, not when everything is calm, but when life tests you at its hardest. Principle 9. Mental toughness is measured not when everything is smooth, but when pressure is at its highest. It is easy to believe you are strong when everything is going well, when work is smooth, when relationships are harmonious, when results arrive as expected, but that is not when strength is tested. True mental strength only reveals itself when familiar things begin to collapse, when plans fall apart, when others doubt you, when your effort is not rewarded, at least not right away. Anyone can stay calm in good weather, but staying calm in the middle of a storm that is the measure. I have seen people who look very confident when things are favorable, but when one disruption happens, they lose direction. They react impulsively. They say things they later regret. They make decisions from fear instead of from principle. Not because they are bad people, but because they never train for the hardest moments. Life does not ask when you want to be tested. It chooses its own timing, and usually when you least expect it. One piece of bad news, one rejection, one unexpected failure. Multiple pressures hitting at once. In those moments, the question is not, how do I feel? But, how will I act? Mentally tough people understand this clearly. Emotions may rise, but actions must be guided by principles. They allow themselves to feel sad. They allow themselves to feel disappointed, but they do not allow those emotions to break their standards of behavior. That is a critical difference. When pressure is high, mentally weak people shrink their world. They see only the problem. They hear only fear. They think only about escaping as fast as possible. And in doing so, they often sacrifice the most important things: values, reputation, self-respect. Mentally tough people do the opposite. They widen their perspective. They remind themselves that this moment, however difficult, is only part of a longer journey. They do not decide their future based on a temporary reaction. They know that one wrong decision under pressure can leave consequences that last for years. And they are patient enough not to make that decision. A very clear sign of mental toughness is the ability to tolerate delay. Delay in results, delay in recognition, delay in being understood. Many people collapse not because pressure is too great, but because they cannot endure waiting in silence. Mentally tough people accept that. There are phases where you must keep doing the right thing without any evidence that it is producing results. And it is precisely in those phases that character is formed. They do not let one bad day destroy their standards. They do not let a temporary failure become a permanent identity. They do not let present pressure steal the future they are building. This requires quiet courage. No show, no noise, just the ability to stand firm when nothing is holding you up. And remember this, when you can maintain clarity at the highest levels of pressure, you gain a massive advantage over the rest of the world. Because many people will panic. Many people will react. Many people will sabotage their own opportunities. Mentally tough people do not. Ask yourself, the last time pressure was at its highest, how did you respond? Did you act from fear or from the principles you say you believe in? Because the true measure of mental toughness is not found on easy days. It is found on the days you are tested the most and still do not lose yourself. In the next principle, I will talk about what makes mental toughness truly sustainable over the long term, not just to survive hardship, but to build a life of order, values, and impact. Principle 10. Mental toughness helps you create order in the middle of a chaotic world. The world you live in is not quiet. It is loud, fast, constantly demanding your attention. Bad news, social media, notifications, other people's expectations, all pulling you in different directions at the same time. If you are not mentally tough enough, you will live in a constant state of reaction. You deal with whatever happens first. You listen to whoever speaks the loudest. You do whatever feels urgent, even if it is not truly important. And gradually, your life becomes disordered. Mentally tough people are different. They do not try to control the world. They create order inside themselves, and then let that order guide their actions outward. Order here does not mean everything is perfect. It means clarity. Clarity about what matters. Clarity about what can wait. Clarity about what is not worth your energy. When you have inner order, you are not pulled by every noise. You filter, you focus, and you do not feel guilty for saying no to things that do not serve your direction. Many people burn out not because they do too much, but because they do too many wrong things. They let their days be filled with small reactions instead of intentional acts. Mental toughness helps you prioritize. You do not start your day by checking what the world wants from you. You start your day knowing what you're trying to build. You understand that not every opportunity is worth pursuing. Not every invitation needs to be accepted. Not every argument is worth engaging in. That clarity creates a powerful effect, stability. When others are stressed by having too much to do, you keep your rhythm. When others are pulled in many directions, you keep moving in one direction. Not faster, not louder, just more consistent. I have seen people who are extremely busy but going nowhere. Their schedules are full, their days are packed, yet after many years, they are still in the same place. Not because they did not try, but because they lacked order in their priorities. Mentally tough people understand that order does not come from doing more. It comes from eliminating things that dilute focus, eliminating unnecessary commitments, eliminating habits that create movement but not progress. This requires toughness because saying no is often harder than saying yes. Saying no to pleasing others, saying no to the false sense of busyness, saying no to chasing what is currently getting attention, but those no's protect your life. When you have order, you are not controlled by the pressure of urgency. You understand that some things take time. Some goals must be built layer by layer. And you do not rush to destroy something meaningful just to feel busy in the short term. Order also creates personal credibility. People begin to trust you because you do not react erratically. You do what you say, you keep your word, you are not dragged around by temporary emotions. And in a chaotic world, that stability becomes a rare value. Mentally tough people do not create more chaos. They create structure. And where there is structure, something lasting can be built. Ask yourself, is your life right now operating on clear priorities, or simply reacting to whatever happens each day? If you created inner order first, how would the external pressures change? Because mental toughness does not just help you endure this world, it helps you shape how you live in it. In the next principle, I will talk about the final result of all of this not loud success, but the ability to stand firm and create long-term impact. Principle 11. Mental toughness creates lasting influence, not temporary noise. Many people want to have influence. They want attention. They want to be heard. They want to be recognized as leaders. But very few people understand this. Real influence does not come from speaking loudly. It comes from standing firm. In a noisy world where everyone can talk, post, and express opinions, words lose value quickly. People listen today and forget tomorrow. They get excited for a moment, then move on to something else. But people remember for a long time how you behave when things get difficult. I have seen this repeatedly. There are people who never make loud statements, never lead with slogans or speeches. But when a crisis hits, when people are confused, when no one knows what to do next, they remain calm. And naturally, others turn toward them. Not because they speak well, but because they do not break. Mental toughness creates a very special kind of influence without persuasion. You do not need to explain why discipline matters. People watch how you live and understand on their own. You do not need to talk about responsibility. People see you take responsibility when things are hardest. This kind of influence is not loud, but it runs deep. Many people gain influence early, but not lasting influence. They rise quickly, attract attention, but when enough pressure hits, they collapse, and with them, other people's trust collapses too. Mentally tough people are different. They build influence more slowly, but more durably. They do not need to be right in every argument. They do not need to win every confrontation. They do not need to prove they are always strong. They only need to be consistent. Consistent in behavior, consistent in values, consistent in how they face pressure. Over time, that consistency creates credibility. Credibility creates trust, and trust creates influence. At work, mentally tough people are often not the loudest voices in the room, but when they speak, people listen. Because they have proven they do not react impulsively, do not shift blame, and do not turn pressure into drama. In families, they are anchors, not because they always have solutions, but because they do not make situations worse. When others are stressed, they remain steady, and that steadiness spreads. In communities, they are the ones people turn to when things become chaotic. Not for comfort, but for direction. That is real influence. Mental toughness also teaches an important truth about leadership. You cannot lead others through pressure if you collapse under pressure yourself. People may listen to you when things are easy, but they only trust you when things are hard. And that trust does not come from promises. It comes from how you act when there are no easy choices. Many people want to lead, but do not want to pay the price of endurance. They want influence, but do not want to endure. They want results, but not the process. Mental toughness forces you to go the opposite way. It teaches you that real influence is a consequence, not a goal. You do not aim for influence. You aim to live correctly, live steadily, live consistently, and influence arrives naturally. Ask yourself, if someone were to observe how you respond to pressure over the next year, what would they learn from you? Are you projecting steadiness or confusion? Because whether you want it or not, you are always creating influence. The only question is whether that influence is strong enough to last. In the final principle, I will bring all of this together into one very clear choice, not vague, not in between, about how you will live from here on. Principle 12. Mental toughness is not a trait. It is a choice repeated every day. After everything we have discussed, there is one thing I want you to understand clearly without ambiguity, without romanticizing it, without leaving room to escape responsibility. Mental toughness is not something you either have or don't have. It is something you choose every day. Many people believe some are born stronger, more hardened, more resilient, but that is the easiest way to avoid responsibility. Because if toughness is innate, then you do not have to do anything. You just accept your fate. But life does not work that way. No one wakes up one day and suddenly becomes steady. There are only people who consistently choose the harder path in the smallest decisions. Mental toughness is built when you choose to get up on time even when no one forces you. You choose to keep promises to yourself even when no one knows. You choose silence instead of impulsive reaction. You choose to continue even when results have not arrived. There are no dramatic moments here. No background music. No spotlight. Only choices repeated. And precisely because it is not dramatic, many people ignore it. They wait for a major event to change. They wait for a shock to wake up. They wait for a day when they feel ready. But mental strength does not come from rare, big decisions. It comes from small decisions you do not skip. Every day, life offers you two paths. The easy path, procrastination, blame, compromise, avoidance. The hard path, responsibility, discipline, persistence, principles. And every time you choose the easy path, you teach your mind a dangerous lesson. When things get hard, I can escape. Every time you choose the hard path, you build another layer of strength that no one can take away. That is why I always say, you do not collapse because of one big failure. You collapse because of too many silent choices of ease. Mental toughness has no middle ground. You're either building it or letting it erode. There's no standing still. And here's the most important thing I want you to take with you after this video. The world will not stop testing you. It will test your patience. Test your discipline. Test your ability to hold your principles when no one is watching. The question is not, will I be tested? The question is, who will I become when it happens? You can choose to hope the world becomes gentler, or you can choose to become stronger. You can wait for perfect conditions, or you can start training in the conditions you have. And that choice, however small, however quiet, will decide many things. How you face failure, how you hold yourself together, and ultimately, how you live your life. Ask yourself right now, today in the smallest things, which path will you choose, easy or right? Because if you are mentally tough enough, the world may test you, but it will not break you. You and I both know one thing after everything said today. Life will not stop testing you. It will test your patience, test your discipline, test your ability to hold your principles when things are unfavorable, when no one is cheering, when results have not appeared. Life will not ask whether you want to be tested. It asks only one question through actions, not words. When pressure comes, will you collapse or will you stand? Mental toughness is not about becoming cold, not about pretending to be strong. It is the ability to carry the weight of life without losing yourself. Every day, you are training your mind whether you are aware of it or not. You are either teaching it how to avoid or teaching it how to stand. There is no middle ground. If there is one thing I want you to take away from this video, it is this. Do not wish for life to be easier. Become strong enough to live rightly in any circumstance. Because when you can master one day, you can master an entire life. If you found today's principles valuable, like the video, subscribe to the Jim Rohn Treasures channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next lessons. We still had many things to walk through together on this journey. And I want to ask you one question, answer honestly in the comments. Which principle today do you know you need to start applying immediately, starting tomorrow? I will see you again in the next video.